Okay, I decided to do it this way. That way you guys can see the book and read along with me as I go. The Ant and the Exceedingly Noisy Crickets. Illustrated by Larry Good. Once upon a time there lived an ant named Serenity. He was as neat as a pin and very quiet. Wren, as folks called him, lived in a tiny one-bedroom condominium. That's a fancy word for an apartment. Wren's life was very peaceful. He read a book every day. He watched birds in the whispering woods. He painted at the nearby lake. But the thing that brought Wren the most serenity was his violin collection. And whenever he got a little nervous or jittery, he would play a soothing sonata to calm his nerves. One morning, Wren was about to play his favorite violin when bam! A huge thud exploded above him. A loud chirp followed, and then a crash. Finally, stomping, smashing, and more chirping shook Ben's music stand. So in this very first paragraph of this page, we have lots of onomatopoeia. Bam, chirp, crash, stomp, smash, and more chirping. So we know that an onomatopoeia is when we write down words that are sounds. The author uses these instead of saying something as simple as the violin fell over to add more excitement to their writing, to make it more interesting for the reader. Along with this being onomatopoeia, it is also sensory language because you can imagine how these things sounded. So you're using your sense of sound in trying to relate to how these actually sounded to the cricket. Wren had never heard such a racket. It was coming from the condo above his. When Wren stomped up the stairs, without even knocking, he flung open the door. Inside there were 4 crickets playing cricket. "Cheerio, mate. I'm Crick, your new neighbor from England. You must be Wren. These are me mates, Rowdy, Raspy, and Big Boom," said Cricket. "Care to talk a googly?" "Talk a what?" asked the furious Wren. "That's Cricket for bat the ball," called out Big Boom. Wren was boiling. He was familiar with the game of cricket, but he'd never heard it played indoors. So again, we're going to pause. And what do we notice in this paragraph? Right here. Wren stumped up the stairs without even knocking. He flung open the door. Inside there were 4 crickets playing cricket. If you said that we're using sensory language to imagine the sight of the door flying open, you are correct. Wren did his best to speak calmly. "I don't mean to offend because you obviously are crickets. But did you know that the game of cricket is generally played outdoors?" "Well, I'll be gobsmacked," said the surprised cricket. "It certainly makes sense. This is the 5th condo we've destroyed since we took up the game." And Cricket and his mates headed outdoors to play in the park. For the rest of the day, all was calm at the condo complex. Wren practiced his violin, drank some tea, and read a book. But that night, as Wren was about to settle into bed, another blast came from upstairs. The crickets were playing music, loud rock music. Wren stomped back up the stairs. Again, he flung open the door, and once again he couldn't believe his eyes. The crickets had formed a band. Crick wailed on guitar, Rowdy slapped the bass, Raspy sang, and Big Boom pounded the drums. "Quiet!" shouted Wren as loud as he could. "I'm trying to sleep." The band went silent. Sorry, Wren, mate, said Raspy. It's just that we've got this band, see? We're called the... Let me guess, said Wren. The Crickets. Actually, no, replied Big Boom. We're the Beatles. We just thought we'd get some practice. Wren stared at them for a long time. Listen, he finally said to his noisy neighbors. You four are crickets. Crickets are musical by nature. I accept that, but you need to play something else. Wait here. Wren ran downstairs and returned with 4 violins. From that day forward, Wren and his new neighbors practiced every day. It took a lot of patience and gentle instruction, but the Crickets became pretty decent violinists. They formed a new band, the Cricket Quintet. The Crickets loved the sweet string sound of violins. They agreed that it was a lot more, well, cricket-like. And Wren's days were peaceful and filled with serene sonatas. Okay, so before we end this lesson, I want to go back up to this paragraph right here. I just want to point out one more time, just to reiterate, that our onomatopoeia, which are words like sang, pounded, wailed, slapped, those sounds go along with our sensory language, which is going to use our sense of hearing to help us better understand what the author is trying to say and to picture in our minds what the story is going to look like or what the story looks like. Especially when it comes to sensory language, they want you to imagine when they say that Crick wailed on the guitar. Think about someone, he's not gently playing the guitar, he is going all out. Same thing here when it says Big Boom pounded the drums. You're using your sense of sound to imagine, how does it sound when someone pounds on the drums? It doesn't sound very light. It's not a small noise. We're talking about something that's extremely loud. So the author made this book more interesting by adding this onomatopoeia and appealing to your 5 senses through sensory language.